Hi, welcome to another episode of Startups Rights. Today, my guest is Bryan. He's founder of Latchloop and Heights Platform. Welcome, Bryan.
Hey, Javid. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm very excited for this episode. We've been planning to make it for some time now. I don't want to waste any more time and just jump right into questions. I think one thing that I guess want to ask straight away is there's a period where information products, right, like the was the obvious model for creators, courses, templates, guides. With AI making information almost free, what do you think has been permanently devalued?
Yeah, this is a great question because I've seen a lot of skepticism, a lot of worry, a lot of thoughts of people on all sides of this, and having running a platform where I've helped now over 10,000 creators build these online knowledge businesses. I get to kind of see firsthand like what's happening, what's working, what's not, and I'm happy to say that I don't think that teaching people and selling some kind of information online is going away. But there is a very important distinction of how to think about the way that you're approaching it. And I don't think it's really actually too much different now that AI is here versus before. But now that AI is here, it's sped up and exaggerated. The things that weren't really the right way to go before are now definitely not the right way to go. And so what that is really is, I think the idea of like the kind of like mini courses, micro courses, and like things like that. The Udemy's and the Skillshares of the world. I think you don't want to, in my opinion, position yourself as trying to either become part of that or like have this race to the bottom of I'm going to offer this like $10 product to people and that's how I'm going to build a business. Because at that level, what you're offering is just information, which people probably could have found on YouTube anyway before AI. But now with AI, they can just ask ChatGPT and then get even a more personalized response about how to accomplish that thing. And so what I always tell creators is the thing that you're really selling to people is that outcome that they're trying to achieve. And the reason that people are going to buy from you, the reason that people are going to continue to want to buy something from you now that we have AI is they're buying from your unique experience and your unique knowledge. And that's not something that AI can replace. And that was always how the most successful creators on our platform were operating anyway. And it wasn't that they were selling specific information, and it's not the information that's important. It's the result, and it's the way that you're getting result because you're learning it from this way that this person is approaching it. And also, it's not just people think like, oh, so it's an online course, so I'm selling. Okay, you tell me I'm selling the result, so I'm making a course, so I'm making these videos, and then people go and they pay me for them. But it's not as simple as that. And I think it wasn't for a while that the successful creators are offering the ability to connect with you as a creator if you're selling them something, but also having this idea of a community. And like this is something that we built into Heights Platform when I first had thoughts of how I would build this way back in like 2015 when I saw these online marketers selling some kind of like videos behind the paywall and then saying, hey, we'll put you in a Facebook group or something too. And I thought like there has to be a better way than this. But now more than ever, I'm really bullish on this because if AI is everywhere, people want to be in a community of real humans where they're with like-minded people that are trying to accomplish the same things that they are. And so it's more than just offering information. You're offering a community. You're offering connection, feedback from you, feedback from everybody in the community, and yeah, there's a lot that can go with that. So I think if anybody was considering to just make the like self-paced, like here's a couple of videos that you can watch kind of thing, the better strategy is now like how can you make that better and bigger? How can you make it involve community? How can you make it involve live calls and interactions with everybody and things like this?
Mm. So I guess when you look at successful creators right now, what are they doing differently? Is it just combination of those things and how they're managing to? I think another thing I'm curious about is you might get somebody initially, but how do you retain them, right?
Mm. Yeah, I could go into a lot of detail on this. I think maybe we won't go too far, but what I would say is like we've noticed it's a big mistake that in the SaaS world we love recurring revenue, right? It's like how
Yeah.
do we grow our monthly recurring revenue? In the creator world, I've seen too many people want to jump into that right away and offer some kind of subscription membership or subscription community or something like this, as opposed to like, okay, here's this like one-time price thing that you're buying access to what I have to offer. I think for the majority of like solo entrepreneurs out there who are building some kind of knowledge business, you should start with a one-time price, because you know that like in SaaS, if you have recurring revenue but your churn is through the roof, then it's not really recurring revenue. And at that point, you're just kind of actually potentially lowering what your hopeful price was, because your lifetime value is so low because everyone keeps canceling. And it's really hard to build a successful recurring revenue business and really get the churn down. And so I think for the average person, as you're starting out with a product and you're still figuring out the pieces of, well, what is it that exactly I'm going to offer? Is there going to be coaching? Is it going to be like just community stuff? Like, what are the ways that you want to do it and the ways that you think is going to be interesting for your customers? And then getting that really polished and dialed in before you consider adding some kind of like recurring component to it.
So initially start with that single price option, and then eventually, once you have good enough traction, you switch to subscription. Is that what?
Yes, sometimes, and sometimes never even switch to subscription.
Mm,
Sometimes the recurring revenue comes in the form of like additional products you may sell later on. But I would also say like then with that initial price, people usually price like too low. So I mentioned the mini course idea and all that kind of thing. Like, don't try to compete on like selling the cheapest price ever. And this is another place where people mess up, is like you look at like a cheap product out there, like a soda or a t-shirt or something that you buy. There is a lot of money behind figuring out how can we make something that is really, really cheap. And also when that's done, if you, those two examples I just gave, a soda or a t-shirt, you're not buying it once, you're buying it a lot and lot. It's like a consumable thing. And if you're selling like an information product and it's $10, it's really hard to like get a customer in any kind of case, in any business. And so you want to ideally have a higher lifetime value on them. And if you're selling something that's a real transformation, that's going to really impact somebody's life in a positive way, then surely it's worth more than $10. So I usually tell people like try to price something at like $200 or above, and then find a way that you can deliver more for a higher price, rather than seeing like how can you make the cheapest thing possible.
that's a very good point. I don't know where I heard it, but I heard that you shouldn't cut your price too much just to earn a customer. Because if you are winning over them just purely based on the price, if next solution comes with a cheaper price, they'll be gone. Um, but how do you earn the right to sell something at $200, for example? And I guess in the age where AI kind of makes it information available to a lot of people, but also makes content creation much easier too, right? You know, a lot of we see a lot of people just mass producing stuff with AI too. How do you stand out? How do you compete? How do you earn that right to charge $200, let's say?
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think there's this like this fear of imposter syndrome, and like, yeah, is my product, am I really good enough to charge somebody $200 for this? But I think another way to look at it that might help to answer this is a lot of creators we've seen have started either as a coach or have started with a more like one-on-one offering, where they are giving more tailored guidance to that individual. And if you imagine it at that point, like being able to work with somebody for a couple $100 one on one, like that could be an incredible deal, especially depending on what is being offered there. And what we usually tell creators to is just try to validate whatever you're trying to sell before you do this big launch and invest all this time and money into it. And you can do that by actually putting a product up there. In our software, Heights Platform, we have options to make this really easy. You can put up a page, you can sell the offer, and then have people purchase it even before it's actually launched. And so you can start collecting money up front. And then the worry is, well, what if people don't pay me? What if no one wants to buy this? Well, if no one wants to buy that, then you've just saved yourself a whole lot of trouble. And well, what if only two people buy it? Okay, well, if only two people bought it, then you now have the opportunity to just massively over deliver on whatever you're going to offer. So if it was a course, it's going to include some like group calls or something. Now you can just do almost one-on-one calls with these couple customers, get the feedback, figure out why did they buy in the first place, what are they looking for, what was clear or not clear about your offer, and then how can you lead them through that. And then now you're giving them something better than they actually expected. And then you can take their feedback and take all of that and then hopefully get a great testimonial from them. And now the next time you do it, you can improve it and hopefully get more customers.
Hmm. And I'm sure you've seen a bunch of different creators. what are kind of the themes or the coaching types tend to get the most traction?
Um, Really, the thing that's inspiring to me is like you can build a like full-time living off pretty much anything that you can imagine, and like we've seen like the craziest kinds of online courses out there. I think there's places where like you get a bad rap in this industry of thinking like every single course is a course about how to make a course or something like that,
Yeah.
because I think especially in the
Right.
entrepreneurship space, this is what we see like targeted to us as ads and things like that. But like we've seen courses about like, I don't know, horseback riding, asphalt paving, all kinds of like weird niches that you wouldn't expect to be something that people would be doing. One in particular that I always love to reference that's on our website is this creator was teaching the hammered dulcimer and the music theory behind that. And I'm a musician. If you're watching the video, you can see behind me. And I didn't know what the hammered dulcimer even was as an instrument, and they've now built a six-figure business with teaching this. And it's like, well, I didn't even know about that. And so yeah, you can really build a business from anything, though I would say uh, where we see people like able to, I guess, successfully charge the most is for anything that's like health, wealth, love, happiness, like kind of these categories of like money or life improvements. So if you're selling something where it's going to help somebody get a new job, or selling something where it's going to, yeah, substantially change somebody's life in that way, then it has more value behind it that you could charge more.
Um, I think I've seen a couple of, solutions like this. I mean, masterclass, I don't know, would that fall under that umbrella? They do teach classes and courses, I guess, online too. W- I guess what kind of gap did you notice that you were like, okay, I need to build Heights platform?
Um, I think the gap is just overall in like education. There's so many like unsolved problems. I feel like in education, and I felt like most of the tools out there were marketing tools, not education tools. I felt like everything was like a landing page builder or like an email sequence creator, and I felt like the marketing side that was kind of a solved problem. But like, how are we actually going to help people learn and get results from these things? And if you're an entrepreneur, of course you want to make money, but you ideally want people to get an actual result from whatever it is you're trying to share with them. And if they do get results, then you're going to get more testimonials, and you'll make a greater income and impact anyway. And so my kind of thoughts like early on that inspired this was like we have these social media platforms that are designed to like keep us glued to the screens and scrolling so we can see more ads. Why can't we apply some of the same principles, but then use it to help people learn instead? And so that was kind of some of the sparks of Heights Platform of how can we help empower these individual creators who have some knowledge that they want to share and turn into a business. And then, because we don't expect them to be like an instructional designer or something like that, but then take the principles that we know in order to better help their students get results.
Mm. Speaking of marketing, you might have the best product ever, but if you don't know how to sell it, you might not get anywhere. I, Again, going back to my point, how it's so much easier to produce stuff now. How do you self-market yourself now? How do you manage to kind of get attention and turn that attention into revenue?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think this is something like we try to educate creators on, because I do think a lot of our audience they're these creators that have a passion about something, but they're not necessarily marketers. And I know I fall into that bucket too. I love building products. I'm not thrilled about going to be on sales calls or things like this.
Mm,
Um, but you have to find ways to do that, and you have to find ways to do that that make sense for yourself. And I think people, I think the biggest mistake I see people make overall is that they just quit too early. And I can point to an example of somebody with horrible branding. I can point to an example of somebody with a horrible product. I can then point to an example of somebody with really bad marketing, even, but a great product. And each of those examples, the person was still able to build a successful business, like a full time living that anybody would be happy with. And the people who don't get to that point, it's generally just because they give up, and they just don't put, either they don't even put it out there at all, or they just stop way too early. And so I would love to encourage creators to find more ways to be able to just keep doing the thing that you're doing. Because I think if you could do
mhm.
that, and in any business, if you can figure out a way to keep doing that thing, you will eventually become successful with it.
That's a good life lesson to keep in mind. Um, so one mistake is quitting too early. What are some other common mistakes you see with early, I guess, content creators?
I think kind of like grass is always greener situation of like trying to jump to what is the next marketing thing or something like that. And I think for a lot of people, the you don't have to be like huge on TikTok or social media or any particular platform in order to build a business. I think that's something that is also misunderstood. Um, and if you can build it through like even finding some partners to help promote with you and then do an affiliate or revenue share, things like that, then you don't even have to spend money up front. You don't have to, I think people either try to jump into advertising and they don't know how to do it and they waste all this money, or they think I have to now somehow try to become huge on social media. But so yeah, I would say that those things aren't true. But then I would also say that don't like jump from one thing to another. Figure out what is the kind of content or the kind of thing that you would want to create. So if that is writing, then like write. If it's YouTube videos, make YouTube videos. If it's a podcast, do a podcast.
Fair enough. And with with AI, there's a huge emphasis on just operating in a very lean way, right? Having not really hiring anybody, not really getting anybody, and making sure automating a lot of workflows. Where do you think that's genuinely valuable AI, and where do you think it's still being very much overhyped?
I think it's incredibly valuable. I think one of the places where it's probably like the most like outsized returns is with coding right now because you're just able to use so many tokens through that. I know at least that's the way that I'm probably utilizing it the most. Like personally, I'm putting like 3 billion tokens per month through my coding agent right now, and I don't feel I can do the same thing yet with like general kind of marketing things. And maybe that's just because that's not my specialty. But what we're trying to do in Heights Platform is since early 2023, we introduced Heights AI Chat and Heights AI Coach. And our view with that is Heights AI Chat is like your kind of virtual assistant, and Heights AI Coach is like your marketing coach. Because we figured, okay, if you're a solo entrepreneur, who are the first two people you would hire? Probably a VA and a coach. And so Heights AI Chat is not only like answering your questions about how to use our software, but it can actually go and make edits for you, can help set up and configure your products. And then Heights AI Coach is there to be able to understand like what are the marketing strategies and how can it help you with suggestions of like what is the thing that you should do next. And yeah, both of these tools, I think like this is the way that people should aim to work with these as opposed to like make the course for me or something like that. Because as I said earlier, again, it's your unique experience, your unique knowledge. Like that's the thing, the reason people are going to buy from you. And if you just generate some kind of stuff with
Hmm.
ChatGPT, it's the same exact thing that anybody else could go and do. So we're not trying to like replace the creation of it, but we're trying to make that easier for you so you get to do what you enjoy with it. So that, probably my favorite feature in the like Heights AI Chat is that it has this lesson review feature. So you can record the lesson, you can upload your text, and then it'll go and review that and can give you feedback and say like, well, here's some questions that members might ask. Here's some potential action items you might want to add to the lesson, and things like that. So it's kind of like your first review and validation of what you put into that lesson before it gets in front of real people.
Wow. So essentially, removing you have the proprietary knowledge, you have the experience. AI just removes those barriers for you to get it out there much more easily,
Exactly.
essentially. Um, I want to understand Hive's platform a bit better. So content creators produce their content on it and then release it on it too, and people come in, or like, how does it work?
So we are a platform for you to build your own business and website on. And so uh, you might see a website and not have any idea that it's using Heights Platform. It's under the creator's own brand and domain and everything like that. Because we believe, like for the most part, like a lot of these marketplaces, they're devaluing the creator's actual knowledge and trying to pigeonhole you into selling this like $10 product or whatever. That's basically a playlist of YouTube videos. And so, yeah, our goal is really like how can we empower the creator to build their own brand, their own website, everything that they're looking for, so they can create not only a better result for the customers but offer a more premium product as well.
Wow, got it. And a lot of businesses are being not just changed but also redefined in AI era, from services to biotech to everything is being changed, right? how do you see creator business, creator economy evolving in the AI era? Are they going to become more like single person media companies or more software companies, services businesses? Like, how do you envision them evolving?
Yeah, I think in terms of SaaS, I think this relates back to the creator business because I heard people talking around SaaS about it's not software as a service anymore. It's now like service as a software,
Hmm.
and I agree with that. And I think that more than just software as a service has to move towards that. I think that like agencies have to move towards that in a way and kind of become software. I think that even a creator business, you have to look at well, like the analogy of or the idea that like you can have a service business and it's like pick any two of like price, speed, quality. And I think that that's kind of broken now because I think speed has to always be included. And now that we have AI, it's just things can be done so quickly. And so you have to kind of learn to figure out how to operate in this new way of working in order to make sure that you can stay ahead and stay competitive. But it's really exciting because now, as an individual creator, you can just do all these things that you never thought of. And I see for myself, I have to just challenge myself to keep thinking bigger and bigger. And like, because you ask the AI one thing and like it's already done. Okay, well, what can we do that's bigger than that? And so I do think it's really the most exciting time to be a creator right now. Because you're not held back by like, well, I would need all this funding to do this, or I would need this giant team to do that.
Mm. And the Heights platform, you know, I don't like to say if I say, I like to say when, because I think that's a more positive approach. But when Heights platform gets to the point you want it to get to, how do you envision that platform? Would that be sort of like a global, the way global platform where content creators would come to? Like, how do you see Heights platform getting to the point you want to get to?
Yeah, it's a great question. I should probably honestly think about it a little bit more myself of like specifically what would
Mm.
that point be for me because I guess it keeps evolving in some way. But um, yeah, I want to be able to make some kind of impact in how people learn because yeah, I feel like education is something that really if we had better education, imagine like where we could be in so many ways. Like we have these incredible AI tools right now, but there's so many people who are not taking advantage of them. And it's partially an education issue. They don't know that what can be accomplished. And so I think if we had better education, a lot more could be done. I think that the traditional systems have to change in a lot of ways. I never went to college or university myself. Outside of high school, I decided to start my business as this event, originally like a graphic and web agency turned into more of like, okay, well, how can we start to build our own products? All of that eventually led to Heights Platform. But yeah, I feel like there's just not the ways that we could learn things could be so much better. And if I can make some small impact on that, that would be great.
That's a really cool. That's a really cool inspiration. And um, if you are, I guess, when you look at the current landscape, um, and where do you see the biggest opportunities for, let's say I'm a content creator, I want to start somewhere. I mean, sure, I might have specific skills I want to focus on, but overall, when you look at the landscape, when you see things changing and evolving, where do you see the biggest opportunities right now?
I think if you can learn how to leverage AI and like get ahead on that, then you've got this big gap because even the larger organizations who are trying their best to figure this out are still behind in implementing it and adopting it and all that. And so you have an opportunity to really like get quickly ahead of other people if you can learn how to kind of build the things that you're doing into systems. And so like thinking about things more in terms of like what would be the standard operating procedure for this or being able to identify that, oh, I actually realize I'm doing this like multiple times a week or even multiple times a day. Is there a way that AI could help take out this tedious part so I can focus on the important part? And I know that there's people out there who are like either apprehensive or maybe even completely against AI in some ways. And I would say that like we're not looking to like create these AI slop companies. We're not looking to have AI do everything for you in the creative way. But the way I look at it is if you think about business, business is really just how you do things. And so if we extrapolate out that everybody has all these AI agents that are always running and are always doing all these things, then what makes any business different from another? If one agent's doing a bunch of stuff and another is like, where's the competitive difference between a business? And I would argue that that's the way that business does things. And so what I mean by that is like if you take an example like Apple versus Microsoft and like how like the Mac became a different thing and the iPhone, and everyone talked about, well, it's Apple's design process of how they're doing things and how they're operating. And I think it's really the same thing in operating a business, even as an individual entrepreneur.
One thing I'm curious about is, and from your perspective, because as we already mentioned, AI is changing the labor market, right? Like a lot of beginner roles are becoming redundant. A lot of um, roles are being completely redesigned and redefined, and especially when you are in your 50s or 60s, you might feel like you're kind of falling behind, right? As somebody who's building an educational platform in some ways, how do you think people should approach retraining to not fall behind in this era where AI is coming after everybody and everything, and you are at risk of losing your job, at any point?
Yeah, that is a difficult question, and I haven't given it too much thought. I guess I'm privileged to be in the position of being a business owner right now, and still, it's like a, a very rapidly changing time, and there's excitement, but also stress that comes with that. Definitely for everyone involved, and it's definitely a weird time in some ways too, when it's just like, okay, well, the thing that I used to do the most was writing code, and now the AI does it for me, and it's doing it. Now I'm doing it way faster than before. So um, yeah, I can understand all that. I would say that it's really important just to try to learn this new way of working. And I think people who don't have like experience delegating things, that would be good, like to try to like actually like build the kind of mental muscle and practice at of like how can you take something that you had to do and then get assistance in doing it now. And it's difficult to start thinking that way if you haven't before, because it's like, well, I didn't have money to hire people, or I didn't have
Right,
like it
right.
wasn't something you'd ever considered before for some people. But now it can be like that. And I think once you start to get the hang of it and get practice with it, then you'll figure out more things that you can do. And as you get more adapted to that, then I think it can be something that's really enjoyable. And in a way, it's a different way of working, but I think it's can also be a fun way of working.
This is really interesting, and somehow we're coming towards the end of our episode. So I'm going to ask two more questions. One is, I guess, on a more uh, psychological level, what do you think is the most important quality to make it as an entrepreneur right now?
I think it's super important to focus on like the things that you care about and the unique skills that you have. Because again, like the same way that I say it's important for like somebody building a course or community business, like that's the differentiator that you have. So don't go out there chasing like see what everybody else is talking about on like Google or X or something, but like think about what are the things that you're passionate about and where does your skill lie, and then how can you build something around that? Because ideally, like you want to find something that you can continue working on for the long term. And I think the ideal situation, like my whole philosophy as an entrepreneur is not to become a billionaire or something, but it's to just have the freedom to do the things that I enjoy. And so my philosophy is like freedom comes first. So if I can find a thing that I would wake up and enjoy doing, whether I needed money or not, then that's the goal there. And I think if you can find that for yourself, and if you could build that for yourself, then there's going to be other people who are going to want that thing as well.
That's a very true and relatable and good perspective to have, Brian. I know I said two questions, but I just came up with one more question. You, well, I'm going to ask my previous question first. Everybody talks about AI and using AI in their workflows. Obviously, ChatGPT and Claude are the go-to things. But what are your favorite AI tools?
So, well, I'm biased, I guess, but it's Latchloop. It's our kind of internal coding agent, which we've made publicly available now. That's like where all my usage goes to nowadays. And more recently, like it was built as a coding agent, as a tool to build software. But we started building it because there was nothing else at the time. There was Cursor, but it didn't do what I wanted. There was no codex or Claude Code. And so we built Latchloop, but now we realized, okay, well, I had people in my team who are non-technical team members that are now suddenly able to ship features or fix bugs when they find them. And I thought, like, okay, well, how can we now just, why not make it a general agent too? Why can't it do other things too? And so now we've made it into like a general agent tool, and it can connect to all these MCP tools and things like that. And so, yeah, we're kind of like building out, where can we have all these different kinds of general agent projects within our organization, in not just software tools, but other things as well.
What was the decision, I guess the logic behind making it open source public?
Well, we didn't make it open source, but it's public. Like, other people could sign up for it.
Exactly.
I'm not 100% sure on what like the specific business model is going to be with it yet,
Hmm.
because my philosophy of trying to enjoy what I'm doing and building everything, I don't think that aligns with trying to raise tons and tons of VC money for this. And it's a weird, messy thing of like this token subsidization that we have with a lot of this. So I'm not trying to compete in that necessarily, but I'm trying to build a great tool that fits for the workflow that makes sense for me, and the workflow that I think makes sense for teams. And so I find a lot of the other agent tools out there are still like not multiplayer in a way that I think they should be. And so Lashloop was that from the start, that it looks more of like a task document, or almost like a Notion doc, that you're writing out what you have to do. And then the agent works on the side, but then everyone else in your team can go and see that too, can go and edit it and can contribute to it. Whereas like most of these agents, it's like, okay, the agent did something, and you tell your teammate, and then your teammate just has to see this like output from the AI, and it's like, well, why did this happen? Like, they can't look through it to figure out even the intention behind any of it. Whereas Latchloop is more, I guess, collaborative and easy to share between teammates.
So single source of truth for everybody, and clear governance and logic behind every output. That's
Yes.
really that's a really useful product, Brian. I guess my final question to you would be, as somebody who's so entrenched in the space and consumes a lot of information, I'm assuming, how do you manage to, not, I guess, how do you manage to kind of tune out the noise?
Mm. Yeah, I think probably the best way is by like actually experimenting and like trying these things, because I find that, yeah, there is a lot that is noise. There is a lot of where like people, even if you're on like paying attention to people on X, where I find there's so much discussion around AI, and that's its own little bubble of people who are way ahead of the average, like maybe knowledge worker. Um, there's still stuff there where people are like either behind or just maybe not even right. And so I think when you just use the tools yourself and use them more, you start to build a sense for like, well, this is the way that it works well for me. And I also think like this is so new, like we haven't figured it out yet exactly. So you may even discover this whole new way of working, and then it's like, wow, now I can build an agent better than anybody, if you just try these things out.
Brian, genuinely loved this conversation. It was very insightful. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, glad to talk with you.